Thank you so much for joining Expectations of the Culture. But listen, there's a remix here. We're doing a collabo. Yes, I'm so excited. I have my book coach, Mrs. Janine Hernandez. Let me make sure I say her name correctly. Janine Hernandez. And she has her own podcast as well called the Janine Hernandez Experience. So what we are doing today is we are actually going to provide content within one episode for both.
Yes,
Only women can do that, right? Multitask the way that we do. So we have a lot to share with you guys. I'm so excited to have her on here. We got so much to talk about, so let us get started. So the first thing we are discussing today is our experiences. So it was very interesting to meet you and talk to you about what I was trying to do with my book. And of course I was referred to you, you had great reviews. So I came to you. And when I spoke to you about what I wanted to do, you were like, hey, I kind of had the same experience. So let us start talking about our experience that we share. What we are discussing during this episode is postpartum. So before we really get into our own experiences, the first thing I like to do is talk about what exactly is postpartum. So let me see. I always go to my very favorite website called NAMI, the National Alliance on Mental Illness, and they always have these great articles about, what we deal with. So yes, this episode we are discussing postpartum depression. So the first thing I did want to discuss is some of the symptoms of postpartum depression. And according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, there are plenty. One thing that they mention as a symptom is extreme difficulty in day-to-day functioning. Do you remember that?
Yep. All too well.
All too well. Absolutely. Feelings of guilt, anxiety, fear, loss of pleasure in life, insomnia. I don't think I ever slept once I had children. It was just like, don't need that anymore. Bouts of crying, cried a lot. Thoughts of hurting oneself or the infant, we'll get to that later. Though that's more of a severe symptom there. Not everyone has that symptom. Some of the causes of what they say of these type of depressive episodes. First, if you have a family history of depression, so you could definitely have that. Lack of social support, which is very important while you're pregnant. Any anxiety, marriage or money problems, stress and substance abuse. Those type of things are risk factors when it comes to getting postpartum depression. So now that we've given you guys the basics, now we're about to give you guys the meat and the potatoes of what's postpartum depression. So would you like to start or would you like me to start?
If you want to start, go ahead.
Okay. So my experience with postpartum depression was very life altering. And I say that because once I had the depression from the postpartum, and then I also had the psychosis side of it. So that's like the more severe symptoms that I just mentioned, like thoughts of hurting oneself or the infant, delusions, hallucinations, things like that. Those were my symptoms. And so I remember when I was pregnant and I spoke to my doctor about my, what I was experiencing at that time. My job was fighting me because I had small complications earlier in my pregnancy. Once I found out I was having twins, and then I started having really bad cervical pain, like from carrying them. So my doctor, the best freaking OB doctor I've ever had in my life. And it was so interesting, Janine, because he treated my kids like they were his kids. So he didn't care. Like, I don't care if your job is not going to let you work from home. I don't care if your job's not going to help you pay for parking, because those were the things like him and I were discussing. He didn't want me to commute because I lived in New York. So I had to walk up and down stairs to catch subways. And, sometimes you're on a train and nobody lets you sit down. Doesn't matter how pregnant you are. So, he just didn't want me to continue putting so much stress on my body when my body was already so stressed from carrying two
Yeah.
babies. So then on top of that, so I didn't have the support from my employer. My mom, who is very religious, didn't support the fact initially. Let me just put that out there. Initially, did not support the fact that I was having children out of wedlock. So she didn't speak to me for a while until I absolutely needed her. And then she stepped back in. So there were just like a lot of different things. My partner wasn't ready for it. My job wasn't supporting it. My mom wasn't happy. So of course, sharing all that with my doctor, he said, listen, I just, at the end of the day, I want you to make sure that when you have these kids, you ask for help. And I'm like, what is he talking about? Like, why would I need help? So then what happened is I had to relocate. My mom was like, look, you don't have the support there. You need to come here. She asked me to leave New York, where my relationship was, and the person who I was having kids with, that's where I left him, to go to South Carolina. Girl, my doctor was not happy with that. He was so upset with me. He was like, I'm not giving you clearance to leave. I'm not approving this. But then he was like I said to him, I was like, I gotta do this. This is not working, And he was like, well, if you go, please get help once you have them. And I heeded that. I've really kept that close to me because I'm like, okay, he sees something that I don't know yet.
Yeah.
And girl, boy, was he right. So my initial thing, I immediately, as soon as I gave birth, it was full speed ahead. Do you remember how yours started? Did it gradually start or was it right away?
It was as soon as I gave birth. I would say a couple hours later, it was like my high of being happy pregnant just went, literally hours after I had him.
Yeah.
It was an immediate onset. It's the weirdest thing.
Did you know it was that right away or?
I think I had an idea because I had him and I had no connection. Well, this is something that a lot of women don't talk about.
Okay.
A lot of women don't talk about the fact that sometimes you just don't have a connection with the baby. They expect you to be like, oh my God, my child. And, I've carried you for 9 months. But the reality is that this is a new person and you're just like, oh, hi, hi.
Right.
And so for me, I didn't have a connection. I was just like, oh, okay, what am I supposed to do?
Mm-hmm.
And for me it was very apparent because I didn't want to hold him. I was just like, you hold him. No, you hold him. Oh, you want to feed him? Because I don't want to. And once it was very immediate that I realized that. I was like, oh, okay, there's a problem here. And I noticed that at the hospital.
Wow. I don't think it happened at the hospital. I didn't have time to actually experience anything because, the twins went straight into NICU. I had them at 37 weeks and a day. So I didn't really get that opportunity to even really realize what I was feeling. And I think mine came in when we got home. I was at the house. My son came home early. He came home first. And then my daughter came home 4 or 5 days after that. And once we were both home, it was like, what the hell did I just do? I got 2 babies. What did I just do?
Yep.
And so then it was like, okay, now I got to figure out how to breastfeed 2 babies. I got to figure out how to change 2 diapers. I got to make sure all these bottles are clean. I got to make sure. Once I started realizing the full scope of what I was in, I think that's when it went down. Because I suffered. So, and I like that you said what you said before I say what I'm about to say. A lot of women are afraid, Janine, to say what it was and what they experienced. Why do you think that is?
Fear.
Fear of what? Fear of not reaching or actually meeting expectations that society has of us, or just fear like, oh, this doesn't sound good. You know what I mean?
I think it's fear of what people are going to think. And postpartum depression is something that nobody really talks about. You can look for books on it while you're pregnant, but you won't really find like a plethora of them. The doctors usually kind of mention, like, if you have symptoms of postpartum, please let us know, or please go to a counselor. That's all they really tell you. They don't really prepare you. And so I think it's a fear of what society thinks a mom should be, and so I'm not living up to those expectations, so I'm afraid, and I'm not gonna say anything, or I'm not going to be honest and truthful. But I wish that more women were more truthful about the process of giving birth and the process after giving birth, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
It is a lot. And I don't think people really can really understand it until you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, until you actually have kids. Like, I mean, I had friends who had already had children by the time I had kids, and I still didn't have a freaking clue, you know, once I had mine. So around the fear. So, okay. For me, which we'll talk about, you know, why I decided to do the book. For me, it was so bad that when I told my friends and my family, other than my mother, like the people who were, maybe a couple of people understood or wanted to understand what I was experiencing, but the majority of the people were like, girl, those are just baby blues. You are fine. Like, everyone goes through it. Every mom goes through it. Are you sure? Are you sure every mom goes through this? Because my mind is hearing someone tell me to throw my kids down the stairs. So is that your experience too? It's not. You know what I mean? Like, it's not. And so this is my first time, like, publicly saying, I heard voices. They told me what to do. They told me to throw my kids into traffic. They told me to throw my kids down the stairs. They told me it was okay. It's okay. You are just tired, girl. It'll be okay. Just go ahead and do it. And then you could go back to your regular life. Like, they were reasoning with me. And I remember my doctor saying, do you hear your voice or do you hear other people's voices? And I couldn't decipher what I heard. I couldn't tell whether it was someone else or it was me. But whoever it was, they were really trying to comfort me and let me know I can get out of this shit. Like, girl, if you just throw them babies down the stairs, this will be over and you can go to sleep. So can you imagine what people are thinking about me right now saying that? I had voices tell me to throw my children into traffic.
And well, the reality is that happens to women and they don't speak about it. And then just the same way that they are told it's just baby blues is the same reason why they don't want to say anything in the first place.
Correct. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. So now let's take that, right? Let's take that information. Thanks for bringing us into the next point, where we're going to discuss what did we do about what we knew what was going on with us. So one thing I do want to say, it is very important to be in tune with who you are, be in tune with your body, know what you expect from yourself so that something else happens. You're like, wait a minute, this is out of the norm. You know, even though I was told I was okay, I knew that this was not right, Janine. Like, I knew it wasn't right. And it wasn't about me not holding my kids. It wasn't about me not feeding them. It wasn't about me not taking care of them. It wasn't any of that. It was, and then I was exhausted. I was exhausted. Like, you know, from the time I found out I was pregnant, I was in complete turmoil throughout my relationship, throughout my pregnancy. Now I got these 2 babies. So when I realized there was a problem, I looked for a group. What did you do?
I was in denial. Like, I think I knew that I had it, but my family knew as well. Like, they started to pick up on some of the things that I was saying, things that I was doing, and they asked me to go to counseling. So I started to go to counseling, but then I felt like they were against me and they weren't supporting me and they didn't understand me. Obviously they wanted me to go to counseling because it would be good for me, but I felt like nobody could understand what I was going through. So, and then I went to counseling, and my counselor's trying to have me take medicine. And it took me a good 9 months of counseling for me to be like, okay, I'll try the medicine, because I was so stubborn. Like, I don't need that. I don't need that. And finally being on antidepressants and anxiety medicine, it finally like balanced me out. So it was the best thing I ever did for myself. But I did feel like I felt unsupported, even though now looking back, I was very supported and I was very loved. But when you're in that space, you just feel like everyone's against you, and you're like, you don't understand. You just don't understand. You know what I mean? It's tough.
Yeah.
Your perception
feel like
is almost it's filtered. It's like, it's weird. Your perception is different.
Yeah. So I can actually give you a story around that. And not only did I feel like other people were against me, but I felt like I was against myself. Like, it was just that bad. So I probably by the time the twins were 2 months, I was already going to postpartum support groups. And I found this amazing support group that a lady started in memory of her daughter. Her daughter, in fear of hurting her daughter, in fear of hurting her child, committed suicide. So it was a really good group. I became very close to her, very, very, very nice lady. And she gave me a recommendation to my doctor. So I went to the group before I found the doctor, because I was thinking maybe the group would help, but I just knew that what I was dealing with was so extreme. I knew I needed a doctor. And so once I found him, we immediately did medication. So I had to stop breastfeeding by the time the twins were almost 3 months old, because I had to take medication. And I went through a process with that medication. Did they get yours right away, or?
Yeah, the very first one that I took, I was good. It took a couple months for it to kick in, but I didn't have to really change anything or do anything. It worked for me.
Gotcha. So then, were you on a medication for a short period of time? Was there a point when they said, okay, you're good, you don't have to take the medicine anymore, or did that just kind of become a part of your life?
So for me, I took the medicine, I would say about a year and a half. And I was good. Like, I was in a really good place after that. I felt really balanced. And what happened with me was that I ended up finishing my refills, or my last refill. And I called to schedule an appointment so that I can refill it. And they didn't have an appointment for like another 2 weeks. So I had to somewhat detox myself off of it. And the detox for me wasn't that bad. I just felt really fuzzy, like dizzy and like foggy, kind of. I couldn't really focus well. But once I detoxed myself, I was fine. And I realized, like, I'm still happy. I'm good. Like, and so I just never went back on it. Even though they tell you, no, they would tell me, you're going to have to be on this for the rest of your life. This is what they would tell me. And I'm like, I don't know about that. But once I, like, by accident, detoxed myself, and I realized that I was happy and I was able to control my thoughts, control my experience, I decided to not go back on it. So that was a personal decision. Yeah.
And I'm happy that worked for you. Obviously did not work for me.
Everyone's experience is different.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that having the psychosis for me was probably part of the reason why, I wasn't able to free myself from this situation, because it just kind of went, how he explained it to me is based on the intensity, or the severity of my postpartum. He had already really expected I was going to go straight into like bipolar or whatever. So I did, it took a very long time to get the right concoction as far as the medicine that I needed to take. On top of that, even though I knew I needed help, I was fighting it because I didn't like who I was now. Like, I remembered who I was before the pregnancy and the postpartum, and I wanted to go back to that person, and I didn't want to accept that that wasn't going to happen. So it would be days I didn't take my medicine. I call my mom, boo, crying, like, I can't do this, and she'll be like, so did you take your medicine? And I'm like, how dare you? Who are you to, what do you mean that I take my, you know what, I'll talk to you later. And I had to sit, I'm sitting there crying. I got these 2 kids right here just tearing me up. And I said, oh, when is the last time I took my medicine? Like, that's how I was so much against me. I didn't want to take that medicine. How did I get to that point before the pregnancy without medication? And now you're telling me every day I gotta take medication. It took me a long time to finally say, listen, this is what you need. This is who you are now. Be okay with it. You could still be a good mother. You could still be a good person. You know what I'm saying? You just have this. That's all. It's just, now you're stuck with it. You know what I mean? So just to kind of, because now I'm just like, when I think back to my past, being their parent or whatever, I don't know, dealing with mental illness, if I was the best that I could be. I mean, I did the best that I could. You know, how did you feel? Like, dang, I got this postpartum, I got this baby. Like, I know that gave me so much more pressure and so much more stress, because I knew I had a problem, but I still had these 2 kids to take care of. Like, you know, how did you finally get back to the happy? Do you remember how you got back to happy outside of the medication? You know, now that you're not on the medication, do you think it was just like, you know, hey, that was my experience, I did a good job, I'm good now? Or, I mean, like, what got you back there?
So for me, well, one thing that kind of came to my mind when you mentioned that was, it took time for me because I had a lot of mom guilt. So once I got to a happy place where I was off of my medication, and I think at the time, so I'm not that much of a religious person, but at the time I was going to a Christian church, so that was helping. Journaling was helping. Reading books was helping. I was learning different coping mechanisms that was helping me. So that helped along the journey. But then once I got to my happy place and I was like, okay, I'm good. Like, I think I got this. I can control it. It was the guilt, the mom guilt of, oh my God, you are such a horrible mom. Like, how dare you? I would tell myself, how dare you have this child, and then 2 minutes after you pop him out, you automatically don't have a connection with him. You don't want to hold him. You don't want to feed him. You don't want to do anything with him. And the first year of my son's life was very, very rough for me. And I think that he could sense it. He could feel it. So me and him were always, he was only 1 or less than 1, but we were always at odds and always bumping heads. And he would prefer to maybe go with my mom than to have me hold him. And I think it's because he could sense that I was not all there.
The connection wasn't there. Yeah.
I wasn't there. And so, you know, once he was like 3 or 4 and I got to that place where I'm like, I am so much better, that mom guilt took several years to get over. And I still sometimes have it, because I felt like a horrible mom. I felt like, you know, why couldn't I have a normal postpartum experience like other moms? Because some moms don't have it. Why couldn't I have that connection with him physically and mentally? Why couldn't I experience the joy of holding my baby? Because the reality was that I never had that joy. I never experienced that. And I think that's why right now I'm like 50-50 on wanting to have kids or not, because I'm already in my 30s. But the part of me that does is because I want to experience that. I want to experience that joy and that beautiful feeling that I didn't have the first time. But that mom guilt is crazy. That's like a whole, it's like the postpartum depression, and then the mom guilt after that is like a second depression.
Wow. And it's funny, right? Because that was listed. Guilt is part of the symptoms of postpartum depression. It's very good that you brought that up. So how old are you now?
I'm 33.
I'm 40. Definitely not having no more kids. But I had decided a while back that I didn't want to have any more children because I kind of believe anything that can happen to me will. So I had twins. I feel like if I got pregnant again, it'll be triplets. Like, so then for me, it's like, okay, do I risk, if I ever decided to have more kids, do I risk going through that postpartum again? Does that happen every single time? Or was it just that pregnancy? Was it based on my experience during that pregnancy? I have a friend who she's one of my best friends. And I told her recently, I'm good. I'm not having any more kids. My kids are 14. I have a boy and a girl. There's no other type of child I can have. Either I can have a boy or a girl. I did both, right? So I'm not missing anything by having more children. And she said, well, I just feel like your pregnancy was so bad and you didn't have the support. And I think that you deserve to have a husband to support you through carrying his baby. Like, you never had that. And I didn't have the belly rubs and I didn't have that. You know what I mean? Like, I had to provide that stuff for myself because my partner at the time, that's not what he wanted to happen. You know what I mean? So,
I do feel like external, your environment has a lot to do with it. Like how you said, you didn't have that experience and you didn't have belly rubs and you had, you had maybe a tension relationship during the pregnancy. So I think that has a lot to do with the outcome after the child. But I will say though, like for me, I had a perfect pregnancy. Like
nice.
I was happy the whole time. When you think of like that pregnancy glow, that was me. I was smiling from ear to ear. I was never really cranky. If I could remember being cranky, it was maybe once or twice. But other than that, I was just so happy. And then as soon as I had him, it was just like a downward spiral immediately. And I feel like it's a chemical imbalance in our body, in our mind. But I do think that external environment and situations play a factor in the way that we cope with the postpartum, because at the time that I had him, I was 20. I was 7 days short of turning 21, so I was very young, first of all. And secondly, I was,
You have a 13-year-old?
He's going to be 13, yes.
Girl, bye. Are you serious?
Yes.
You look like you like 18. You have a 13-year-old. I'm so wow.
My
okay.
They think he's my brother. But I do think that at the time I was very young and I didn't have I was not well equipped to be a mom. I didn't know what it took. I wasn't mentally prepared yet, mentally or physically. And so whereas if I look at myself now, I do fear, because I like I said, it's 50-50 for me. A part of me wants to have a child. A part of me is okay if I don't. But the part of me that does, I do feel like, I've done the work mentally and I read a lot and I know what I need to do in the morning to kickstart my day. I need to have think about gratitude and work out, and I need to like get myself on the right foot in order to have a great day. So all of those things play a factor, but I still think that even though you have all of those tools in your toolbox, I think that it still can happen.
Absolutely. And I think I'm the type of person that it will happen to again. So I'll just avoid that whole spiel. You know what I mean? So before we move into our next topic, I do want to say, is there anything you want to say out to these or maybe expectant mothers or mothers who are actually currently dealing with not really understanding what they're going through, but their friends and family telling them, girl, it's just the blues?
Only you know what you are experiencing. That's the first thing. And I think it takes a lot of self-awareness to understand what's going on. So, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'm 33. There have been moments in my life where I've had just regular depression, and I've been self-aware enough to tell myself, okay, you're sleeping a little more. You don't want to get out of bed. You have no energy. You don't want to cook. You don't want to clean. You don't want to do anything. Maybe you have a little bit of a depression right now. This is something you need to look at. So I think being self-aware and understanding the symptoms before it happens is very important. And I know that it can be difficult because you have external people, family, friends, trying to tell you what's truly going on in your head, and they might not understand, but only you understand. But the only thing that I can recommend is go seek help, because it's not fun. The longer that you try to run away from it, the longer it's going to prolong itself. And so seek help from a professional. If you don't want the help from your family, that's okay. But, go talk to someone that can help you, and then maybe can put you on medicine. I'm not big on medicine, but I will tell you that it saved my life at that point in my life because I needed it. I had to stop being stubborn for 9 months of saying, I'm not going to take medicine. And I finally did. And it really helped me.
Yeah.
So.
And I definitely want to second that. I do think it's very important to be in tune with yourself, be in tune with how you're feeling. And if it does not feel right, regardless of what people are saying to you, if it does not feel right, seek help. Even if it's just to find a group that deals with postpartum. Maybe you still don't really know if what you're feeling is that. But I promise you, if it's that, you go to one meeting, they'll solidify, yeah, that's what you're dealing with. You know what I mean? At least. The other thing I want to say is don't be afraid of what you're feeling or what you're experiencing. Don't be ashamed. Like, you're not the first and you're not going to be the last. There's so many people who have experienced it who, if you just ask, you'd be surprised. Like, I didn't know you had that. I wouldn't have known. It's not like I could look at you and say, oh yeah, she's definitely had postpartum. But when I spoke to you about what I wanted to do and you shared it with me, I was like, wow. And I feel bad I don't have statistics, but I'm sure the statistics prove that a lot of women suffer with this, deal with this. I remember when Brooke Shields came out, I think she did a book. And then I also think she did like a video kind of movement where I think she was taking video of women who suffered from it, and they were talking about their experience. And it was like, wow, it was such an eye opener. Like, okay, you're not alone, babe. You're not. Do the best that you can. And if you need help, get help. Do not deny yourself that.
And also, I think it's very important to, as foo-foo as this may sound, is get out into nature, because being indoors just does not help. It makes it worse. So go outside, put the baby in the carriage, and go for a walk daily. I say daily. Go outside, get into the sunlight, sit on the grass with the baby, in a blanket, relax. That really helps to breathe in fresh air. All of that helps, because I think with me, a lot of my issue too was being stuck indoors. I was stuck indoors for 3 months with a newborn, not going out, not seeing people, not doing anything. And it just makes the depression worse. And I was to the point where I was having panic attacks. I literally wanted to jump out of my skin. It's like the weirdest and craziest feeling. And so if you start feeling that way, it's just really take some time for yourself. Who cares about the laundry and the cooking and then the dishes? Nobody cares. Just go outside with the baby and just go for a walk and breathe, practice your breathing, and do these things, because it's going to help.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I'm not an outdoors person, but COVID made me like, okay, I gotta get out this house. So especially you moms, new moms with babies during COVID. Oh my goodness, I can't even imagine what they're dealing with, the anxiety around COVID alone. And now you really got to keep your baby inside because it's not safe out there for them. So, hey, listen, moms, if you're struggling right now, reach out to a friend. Groups. Oh, another good thing I wanted to say, Facebook groups are the bomb. Listen, I follow so many Facebook groups I love my bipolar moms group. So awesome. Like the other day, somebody said, does somebody else not like their kids? And I said, me, I don't like mine either. Yeah, we together. Don't worry about it. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just got to find people who are dealing with the same thing you're dealing with. Then you're not dealing with that whole, I don't know what they think, or maybe I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, find people who are like-minded, who can get you through it. That's all.
Yep.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
So now it's time for the collabo part, everybody. So the reason why I think I said earlier, I'm so excited that Janine is here is because she is my book coach, and I am writing a book about my experience as a mom dealing with postpartum and mental illness. So now I'll let you take the reins, honey, and you can interview me.
I'm so excited. First of all, I'm super honored that I get to be your book coach, but I'm super excited to, have you working on your book. It takes a lot of courage to be able to share your story. So thank you for that. But I want to know, I want you to share with our listeners a little bit about what your book is about and how the process has been for you writing it.
All right. So the process has been the process. Let me start with that. The process has been really good. When I came on board with you, I already had quite a bit already written. I've been trying to write this book for probably about 8 or 9 years. And someone I was close to put her book out, and I was like, you've been sitting on this. If you're going to do it, So you got her to where, she was an Amazon top selling author, so super excited about that for her. So I just wanted the same thing for myself. I think that my story is not unique, but it's interesting.
Yeah.
So that's why I decided to just do that,
And are you going to be sharing about the postpartum depression, or are there other topics that you're going to be talking about?
Girl, I'm talking about it all. I'm talking about relationships. I'm talking about depression. I'm talking about being a mother. I'm talking about freeing yourself from situations that could keep you in a very depressive state, that can put you at rock bottom. I talk about acknowledging your mental health where it is. And if you suffer from mental illness, taking care of that, but not necessarily about medication, but just about learning your coping mechanisms. If you're dealing with mental illness, and for instance, if you have anxiety, and I suffer from anxiety, which is a new thing for me. I don't like it. It's horrible. But I don't like Walmart. Anybody who knows me knows I hate Walmart. I would rather go to Dollar General and pay $20 for something than go to Walmart and pay $5. Dead at. I'm over it. I can't. It's just too much. It's too much stuff in there. It's too many people in there. And the parking is horrible. So, you know what I mean? So for me, it's okay, you have anxiety around Walmart. What is your plan? Because you can't avoid Walmart. You have to go to Walmart sometimes. You know what I mean? So that's what I'm trying to do in the book as well. Okay, if you want to be free of this person, what does that look like for you? What is the plan? So I've done a style where I'm telling my story. I also have journal entries. So I ask thought-provoking questions so that you write. I give you space to write. And I'm thinking about adding a couple of other little elements, but I'm not there yet. But I wanted to do a book where I could talk about what I experienced, but then kind of jar your thought process and say, okay, I may not have this same problem or dealing with the same circumstances, but I could see how I can use what she did, or maybe I need to incorporate this so that I can deal with it better. So that's kind of the whole, right now, that's the style of the book, but it may change.
Love it. And what made you want to write a book in the first place? How did that come about?
Wow. I was always a writer. I'm really good at writing. Um, I always kept journals, lots and lots of journals. I never completed journals. Like I would probably write through like 75% of it and be over it and just want a brand new one. So I had a lot of journals. And I think what happened was as I was going through my life, raising my children with mental illness, I started thinking about what I would like to read, what I would like to know. I would like to know somebody else is dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. You know what I mean? Like, I don't like feeling like I'm alone. And so in my mind, it was like, there's somebody else who's probably feeling very alone. And I want them to know you're not. Like I did it and I'm here. My kids are 14. They're alive and they're healthy and I didn't throw them down the stairs and you know what I mean? Like, I made it and you can too. Like my kids just turned 14 on the 1st. And I said to a friend of mine, I said, wow, I made it through 14 years of this. When I gave birth and my postpartum kicked in, I did not think I was going to make it, Janine. I didn't. I really did. I had to live for them because I was over my life. Like I literally had to live for my children. And so I just wanted to let people know, like, you can survive this and life can be great. And it's not going to be fun while you're going through it. But just imagine once you get past it, what life could be for you, you know?
Who is this book for? What kind of person would benefit from reading this book?
Who is this book for? Well, obviously, one person or one demographic are mothers who are suffering with postpartum depression, but it's also for women in love. It's also for men whose wives are dealing with postpartum or girlfriends dealing with postpartum or a sister whose sister is dealing with it and she just don't understand it. I mean, I think that is for everyone, but my favorite demographic is single moms because that's who I am.
Yeah. How has the process been for you writing the book? Has it, because you're talking a lot about your personal life, obviously you're putting it all out there. So have you had moments where you're just like, I forget this, I can't do it.
Girl,
or
are you serious?
Like how has the process been?
I think when you're writing about your life, you kind of go through that moment a lot. I think why it took me so long to write the book is because it's very hurtful. I am very sensitive emotionally. So as I'm writing through it, I feel like I'm literally going through it again. So Sunday, just to give you an example, Sunday, I was writing in the book and I was like, oh, I remember this email that I received. I was trying to think of how to say it, but I remember this email, and this email is very important to my book. So I go in my emails, I'm looking for this book. Now we're talking about 2006, 7, my kids, so I got to go all the way back there in my personal. And I start seeing all these emails, Janine, pictures of the kids, emails I wrote to people, specific people. And I'm reading through it and I'm like, what? Are you serious? Like, you were that? I was so low, Janine. I was so broken, Janine. And when I read those words, I just couldn't believe I was that broken and that messed up, like mentally, like the stuff I was saying. I was like, yeah. You can't, like, I'm 40 now. It makes sense. Like, I won't do it again. I was in my 20s then. You know what I mean? I made mistakes. I said things and probably did things and made choices that, I am where I am now. But the process is very hard when you're writing about pain and when you're exposing that pain to people. That's embarrassing. I don't know what people are going to think about what I'm writing. They probably gonna be like, girl, you are dumb as hell. Why did you even deal with any of that? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sure out of 100 people, probably 40 are going to say that. Like, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? So the process is hard. It's not an easy process when you are writing about pain and hurt and love that's lost. It's not easy. It's a very hard process, but you text me probably about every week. Hey, how's the writing go? I'm like, oh God, there she go. Okay, I gotta write. Girl, if you don't pull out that book and write.
That's so funny. I do. I text all of my clients every Friday, see how they're doing. You're probably like, oh God, here she goes again.
I say to myself, okay, next time she texts me, I'm gonna say, oh, it's going good because I actually wrote this time. You know what I mean? So because of the pain, sometimes I do avoid the process. So I'm actually having to, and I just want everybody to know who's writing the book. It's okay. I had to push mine back. I don't think I'm gonna be ready by January, but I'm gonna try.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try, but I know too that I'm trying to create a certain type of product. And so I want it to be right. You know, I don't want to rush through it, but the process, Janine, it ain't easy, honey. It's
It's
just
not
not.
easy.
Mm-mm.
And you know what? All authors go through that. And even me, like I've written 5 books, and this last book that I wrote, the week of launching, I was crying on the phone with my boyfriend because I was just like, oh my God, everybody's gonna read it, and oh my God, what are they gonna think? And I'm not ready. And you just have all these fears, and it's totally normal. But it, like I said, it takes courage. And so you're doing the right thing. You're sharing your story. You're going to impact so many people, so many women. So it's going to be amazing. So I'm super, super proud of you. What do you hope to accomplish with this book once it's done?
I don't know. I mean, this entire process is about the book and about my experience. And when I say the entire process, I'm talking about the book, the podcast, you know, having this episode with you. All of this is about my growth as a woman and as a parent and as an entrepreneur. And so the next step, after the book is written, start writing book 2.
Yes.
I've already created the mission and the vision for a nonprofit organization for single moms. So that's something I want to work on. I need this podcast to blow all the way up because, I mean, I am amazed by the amount of people who suffer from mental illness and the amount of people who are ready to talk about it, you know? Yeah. So definitely got to grab onto that and get, you know, people don't understand it. So I probably can't give you a definite answer because I have so many different things that I want to do around this. I want to become the mental health advocate, period. Regardless of color, race, person, sex, circumstance. I want to advocate for everybody. You know what I mean? Like, so the next step is
that voice for everyone else that's silent.
And so whatever that voice needs, whatever my community needs my voice to do at that time, that's the plan.
And you know what? I know this is cliche, we hear it all the time, but sometimes we go through things for a greater purpose. So God knew exactly what he was doing when you were going through all of that, because look at you now. You're doing the podcast, you're writing the book, and you're about to impact so many different people. So I'm so proud of you. I can't wait until your book comes out. For our listeners and our viewers, where can people find out more about the book? So directly on your Instagram? Is it going to be on your Facebook? Where will you be announcing more information on there?
That is a very good question. So the goal is I definitely will be promoting it via Instagram. Because the book is about mental illness, it will be a part of my podcast website, Expectations of the Culture. So it will definitely be on EOTCpodcast.com. It'll have its own page there. But mainly, I definitely will be promoting it on all my social media platforms. So
yes, you need to stay on top of it. We need to stay on top and keep following you and just seeing the process of you writing it. And then I can't wait. It's going to come out in 2021. I'm not going to allow you to let it linger any longer. I'll keep bugging you.
No, listen, it's definitely going to happen Q1. It just may not be January, but it's definitely, it has to happen. It's been too long.
Yeah.
It's just been too long. I'm still working on a name.
Which is normal.
What I have so far, and I'll share it with you and you can tell me, do you think I could share it on the podcast or? Okay. So I talk a lot about removing the gag, removing the stigma, the bias on mental illness. So what I have so far is removing the gag, navigating through my mental illness.
Love
That's what I have so far.
You know what? And it's going to evolve. It might stay that way or it might change, 2 minutes before you hit publish. So just be open to the journey because it's never one direct road. Sometimes it winds and we change things and we get new ideas. So just be open to it. But it'll all become clear to you once you're getting closer to that publishing and print date. But if that's what you're feeling right now, then that's what it is right now.
That's where I am right now. So, this whole process has been very organic for me, just to let everyone know. Well, I think by the time I signed on with you, I had like 8,000 words already or something like that. I think I'm at 17,000 now. My goal is 25. So yeah, it's definitely not a quick thing. It's a process. It's a commitment. And it's something that I've put on the back burner for a very long time because life happened. But if you want to write a book, it's worth the process is worth it. It's definitely impactful. I'm going away to do a little bit more work on it. So hopefully that would be really good for me. But if you're wanting to write a book, love Janine. She's an awesome book coach. She keeps me motivated. You made me think about my 5-year plan. I think we did a 10-year plan. I was like, girl, I'm just trying to get through the book. You want to know about my 5-year plan?
Girl, we're trying to make it happen.
Girl, okay. And let me tell you, I gave you some good stuff from my 5-year plan. I need a house and all this, I got plans. So if you want to write a book, do it. Just start. Paper and pen, that's all it takes. I never did paper and pen. I typed everything. But some people are old school. But I definitely recommend anyone if this is your goal in life, get it done. And if you're looking for a good book coach, here she goes. Her name's Janine Hernandez.
Well, thank you so much. I really am truly honored to be your coach. I'm so excited for your book to come out. I'm so happy that we were able to collaborate on this podcast. Something new for both of us, and we were both able to share our stories, not only with, postpartum depression, but the book publishing world. Can't wait for your book to come out. So keep us all updated on that launch. I'm sure everyone is going to be ready to purchase and make you a bestseller as well.
Yes, let's do this. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And thank you guys for listening. Do you have any last minute words to our listeners?
I do. So you don't get to thank me and I don't get to thank you. You know what I'm saying? So first of all, I would like to thank you for being a guest on this collaborative effort that we've done together. I want to thank you for your support. I don't think you really realize, especially the last few months, you've reached out to me in really dark times, and writing was what I needed to do, during those times. So I want to thank you for that. Lastly, I appreciate you being on here and even, taking a chance with me. I know this is very new for both of us, but I think it's going to be great. And, do you have it? I always end with one note. So do you have a note that you end with? And then I'll say mine.
I always just say, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, share, do all that good stuff you guys do.
All that I never say. So I guess I need to start saying that. But listen, I always end on the same note. Check on your strong friends. We need you. All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.